It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 321. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
There is no escape.
Kodra.
Hello.
Tam.
In the name of someone really, really sore.
Fail.
Hello.
So, we did not do a last week.
It is.
We did not do a last week because Halloween happened, and I think it was going to be like 2 people.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been a crazy week for me because, early or like Sunday, my dad fell and broke his hip, and I have been playing nursemaid to parents. So I have more or less been knocked out of the world, other than I feel somewhat better about the world today.
Yeah.
And I hope that feeling lasts.
It's a step.
It's a step.
Step has been taken.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in 7 day. It won't be tomorrow when you listen, but among the things like I guess BioWare decided to actually have an in 7 day this year because it had been several years since they had actually really done much of anything for it. And they announced that the long belabored and rumored re-release of the Mass Effect Trilogy is going to happen. Please, God, let them just throw the same UI on all the games.
Yeah.
And not be the first one.
Yeah.
Let me. That could have been a bad wish.
Yeah. You got to be specific here.
That's all I want.
Hopefully the monkey's paw didn't already curl a finger.
I don't necessarily care about 4K visuals. I just want the first game not to be kludgy as hell.
Yeah, because I've gone back and tried to replay the first one a couple of times, and it's
no Witcher.
The announcement doesn't make it sound like they're going to change it.
No.
Yeah, no.
And I will be sad because that is the one thing that really needs to happen is to fix that game's UI.
It's like when I go back and play through the Quest for Glory games, and there's 2 in there that's still an old, text parser, and it's just weird.
They also announced a really, really, really pretty NZXT case, which is also very, very expensive.
Don't need a new case.
It's real pretty.
Yeah.
I think I currently have a fractal design case, and I like it just fine. So
I have an NZXT case, but they're charging $100 premium for that one over the base cost of this case.
Yeah, it's just a standard model that's colored differently for the black with the red and white stripe.
Yeah,
but it's real pretty.
I have a giant white case that's slightly smaller than the PlayStation 5 is reported to be, and I'll just stick with it.
Oh my God! Speaking of that, yes, it hasn't happened yet, but the pictures I am seeing of people with their PlayStation 5 review units, I've seen more than one picture of someone who tried to stick it in a little square cubbyhole, but had to place it diagonally.
But speaking of space operas that have their own day, what did you guys think of the announcement of a new Star Wars Christmas special?
Look,
What the hell?
By definition, it will be the best Star Wars Christmas special.
It will. And hopefully they have Lumpy.
It will. Yes, that I desperately hope at least one member of Chewbacca's extended family makes an appearance.
Exactly.
Hopefully it's not Granddad in his porn.
Wait, what?
Yes. Clearly you've not watched the spectacle that was the Christmas special.
It was a thing. On the downside, B. Arthur will not be making an appearance, so...
Man. Can we get a hologram B. Arthur?
There you go.
I mean,
That's
we're
what
getting
we
a
need.
hologram Whitney Houston. Surely we can make a hologram B. Arthur. It is so worth watching.
I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah,
No, it has
It's an
transcended. It's like The Room, okay? It is transcended.
it's true.
And it is now a train wreck worth watching.
It is a massive train wreck. It is legitimately drug fueled. It's
and it wasn't cheap to make either.
No, it
was grossly expensive because it has this special set that was physically built out and is has 360 panoramic views of the rooms. And,
it's like this whole custom built cantina set.
Yeah, there's an awesome making of video that I've seen before talking about just how expensive and how complicated this set was.
Like the only thing about the Star Wars Holiday Special that could be considered actually good, maybe, is the little animated short that introduced Boba Fett.
Yes.
I remember that actually being good. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I just remember Boba Fett being cool. And then I remember shortly thereafter you being able to send away for a Boba Fett that came 6 months later, I swear.
Yes, with his supposed launching missile that didn't launch.
Yeah.
But that's finally been taken care of.
Yes.
And I will say no more on that. God, watch The Mandalorian.
Yes.
It's so good.
I have not seen the new season yet.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I mean, they only just dropped the second episode, so you haven't missed a lot yet.
I know.
It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah. I mean, they managed to make Tatooine an interesting place.
They did. By focusing on the seedy underbelly.
Yeah.
So apparently the Marshal is actually a pre-existing character.
Yes.
From the books. I did not know this.
From Aftermath.
I haven't read Aftermath. I guess I maybe need to go read Aftermath.
I have not read Aftermath either, but I need to now because I am curious.
And this is what good transmedia does.
Yeah. I like to. I want to know more.
But yeah, I've been watching them as they came out. Friday was a very rough day, so I needed, Mandalorian when I got home.
I'm probably going to have to watch the first season because my wife wants to watch them.
It is well worth going back and watching it.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times now, and it's been worth it every time.
Yeah.
I managed to get my wife hooked, too. So, I mean, mostly I think it's Baby Yoda, but...
Yeah, I needed something to take my mind off of things on Tuesday. So that's when I watched the first episode of The Mandalorian and the latest DuckTales. They were both excellent. Hey, Brian, I seem to recall you mentioning you want to see more of Gandra D.
Yeah, I know she's part of FAL.
Get caught up to the latest episode of DuckTales.
Well, so... Okay, how?
Find somebody who has access to Disney XD and get them to record it for you. I don't know.
Because legitimately, I watched all of it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's probably how a lot of people are watching it now.
Yeah, but the current season isn't done yet, so it's not up there.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. It annoys me when things are hard to stream.
It would be nice if they would just, start putting things like that. I mean, because who would it be hurting if they put it up on Disney Plus a week, even a week or two after it aired for the first time on Disney XD? They're both their own channels. Yeah, but it's I don't know. I feel like DVR is a thing. People aren't going to be expressly tuning in to catch the rerun of an episode anyway. If they're that interested, they'll record it.
I have to assume that it's a little bit the cable companies who are hosting that content.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'm sure they've got something in the contract.
They are probably not terribly excited about anyone who's not using them for any reason.
Yep. Well, and that's why the cable companies will soon cease to be cable companies and simply be
content companies?
Content companies.
I mean, that seems to be where they're going, right?
Smartphone companies.
Yeah, I ended up having my television die this week in addition to everything else that I was dealing with. So I went out Friday afternoon and picked up a new TV, and my goodness, it's been a while since I bought a television, and now they're basically just designed for cord cutters.
Yeah.
That's it. Like the actual cable box action is like secondary.
Like I think it's possible to find a TV that isn't set up to be a smart TV, but you have to like expressly look for one at this point.
Yeah, this one just had tons of free content on it, and that's apparently a thing you now get.
Well, I mean, I know HBO Max basically comes free with everything now. Like you buy a box of cereal at the store and get a free year of HBO Max with it.
I've been looking at upgrading my cell phone, and it's not actually possible for me to upgrade my cell phone without getting HBO Max.
Right, exactly. Like that was just a pack in with my phone deal. I'm like, okay, sure.
It's like, I guess, there's a few things on there I want to watch. It means I've got access to old Sesame Street episodes, so that's cool.
There's actually a lot on HBO Max. I mean, all the Warner Brothers stuff was on HBO Max.
All that. Yeah. Although Animaniacs won't be. That's going to be on Hulu.
Yep.
Because they have to ruin everything.
Well, so I gotta be honest, that might be one of the last gasps of Hulu for me.
Yeah.
Because that is a service that I am finding myself click on less and less now.
I mean, that's the one that I still don't have. And, like, I'm honestly more likely to pick up the Paramount one than Hulu.
The one that I don't have, that I clearly need to, like, buy a phone or something, is actually HBO Max. Or maybe I'll pester somebody for a login.
Yeah, like, you should be able to find it pretty easily. But yeah, because among other things, HBO Max is where all of the DC Comics stuff is now. That their streaming thing went away. So that's where Doom Patrol is and Watchmen and all of that.
And Titans is on there now, isn't it?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
But also Harley Quinn.
Yeah, Harley Quinn is on there. I think I'm pretty sure the new seasons of Young Justice are going to be on there since they're bringing it back. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There actually is a lot of stuff on HBO Max that I want to watch. A lot of it is stuff that I can't watch while Francis is in the room, though. He doesn't need to be watching Watchmen. Along the same lines, I kind of want to see The Boys, but he sure doesn't need to be in the room when I'm watching The Boys.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't even need to be in the same building.
The Boys is something that I've wanted to start. I just haven't gotten around to starting.
I haven't wanted to watch anything that like nihilistic and dark.
Yeah.
And I might actually give me a couple of months, and maybe I might be willing to actually watch something like that again.
This is me and The Last of Us 2.
Too real. Just too real.
Well, like I at a very specific time, I stopped watching Man in the High Castle and that Margaret Atwood show. Can't think of the name of it right now. Yeah, I kind of stopped watching those at the same time because they felt a little too realistic.
Mm-hmm. Well, for that matter, I know that there's actually a Sandman series on the way, like for reals now. I guess that's probably going to be on HBO Max.
Probably, yeah.
Definitely got to watch that.
So I don't really have a cheeky transition to this one, so I'm just going to brute force it. So World of Warcraft has had this problem with multi-boxers for a while. There are several areas in the world where you go to, and there are like 40 Moonkin running in a circle, hitting Starfall. So much so that it will induce vanilla-era loot lag.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and like there's a place in Azuna in Legion area, the Murloc camps that instant respawn. There's a tar pit area in Nazmir in the Horde area of BFA. There's several of these sweet spots, and the problem was in all the BFA zones, Blizzard introduced a BOE world drop mount that just drops off stuff.
So they're farming for that.
So they're farming for that so that they can sell it on the auction house, and then basically anything of use that's bycatch from them doing this, is profit. The other thing that they're doing, which is just completely tanked the material economy, is they will go run a route, and they won't be grouped up, but it will be a string of characters all using key broadcasting software so that when they find an ore node or when they find an herb, they all loot the node. And since nodes now have a grace period when one gets looted to stop people from ninja looting nodes, every single person in that stack gets to loot the same node. So if you're running like 20 bots, you get 20 copies of the herbs that came off the thing. So like this has been a problem for a while. I noticed it as I was leveling some characters through zones, and it was just insane amounts of lag. Anytime you tried to loot anything, if you tried to skin something, it didn't matter if it was item. Like the thing with vanilla lag that I remember is it was anytime you were adding a new item to your bag. This is just anytime you interact at all with your inventory. But apparently last week, or actually the beginning of this week, they made a ruling, and now anyone using software that broadcasts key inputs will get warned the first time, banned the second time. That now multi-boxing is, in theory, a bannable offense with an asterisk at the end. Like, if you are legitimately multi-boxing to where you're just, like, running two windows on the same machine and hot swapping between them, like to drag a character around and, like, throw the occasional heal, they don't care about that.
Okay.
But they do care about the key broadcasting software that basically, like, sends the same key press to every character.
Okay, so this is also going to end the, like, groups of
five shamans in a PvP area.
Yeah.
That's kind of my general thought about multi-boxing.
But that's been around since like BC. Like I remember that was when it really got popular. And Boom was the first one I remember doing it. Horde side. He was running around 5 shaman and would frost shock and then, you know, lightning bolt a person down and just take them out instantly. But yeah, so that is a major change, probably for the best. I mean, alternately, they could have just made these BOE world drop mounts not BOE, or bind on account, or yeah. So that has been interesting, and that has caused a small amount of strife because, like, the multi-boxers are now all up in arms because, you know, they were paying for 40 subscriptions to World of Warcraft so that they could do their racket. But it does make me wonder, like, how much that inflated subscriptions.
Yeah.
Or if they were making enough through their farming that they could just pay for tokens to pay for their subscriptions.
That seems kind of likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Tam, this is one you threw on the list. I have no idea what it is. Knights and Bikes.
Knights and Bikes is a Double Fine venture, which I hadn't really been following anything that they'd been publishing. But I was looking for something with couch co-op that we could play at home, and was like, you know, what's available. It's by a developer called Foam Sword. It's got that.
It looks exactly like Costume Quest.
Yeah, it's got that. It's got that art style that I associate with Double Fine games, because it looks like Costume Quest. It looks like
Psychonauts.
A little bit like Psychonauts. I was thinking of the point and click adventure game whose name is
Broken Age.
Broken Age.
Yeah.
Double Fine adventure.
Yep. But it's basically it's these two, they're probably like, I don't know, I forgot how old they say in the game, but you play as these two like 7 or 8 year old girls running around this island in like Wales, I think, having adventures on this like tourist trap island where there's no tourists and it's winter and kind of sucks. And it was like, all right, this is cute. You're playing as kids. It's got like a punk soundtrack. You're running around having make-believe adventures. It's cute. But it's also like, it's surprisingly powerful. Like there's a meta story that's actually really good. Like I don't know if I would say it's quite Night in the Woods good, but it's got similar vibes.
Okay.
And the way it's delivered, because it never ever breaks character. Like you never get any context other than this like 8-year-old girl's context. And so you kind of have to piece together what's really going on because she has no idea. But yeah, it was good. And it's good, it's lightweight, it's fun. It's got a kind of like arcadey, if you remember like the old arcade beat 'em ups.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that kind of thing going on, but it's also got some really interesting, clever puzzles. As you play, you unlock new weapons, but your weapons are like a frisbee, water balloons, your wellies. It's like rain boots. You kick puddles at things. You really like riding your bike.
It kind of reminds me of the types of weapons that you had in the Goonies 2 Nintendo game.
Yeah. Yo-yo.
Yep. Yo-yo.
And like the stuff that you're fighting is like bouncing clown balloons from the amusement park, but they're terrifying. It rides this interesting line between like what is real and what is not. And like some stuff is a lot more real than you realize. And some stuff isn't.
So apparently the actual creators all worked on Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
Also, apparently there are some tie-in novels.
Huh. I did not know that. But yeah, it's a super charming game. It's pretty fun couch co-op. You can play it solo in a presumably I think you like switch characters. It's got like a switch characters button. But there's a bunch of puzzles. There's a bunch of times where we sort of sat and looked at a thing to try to figure out like, how does this puzzle work? The characters are charming. The art style is great.
I'm probably going to have to check this out. I mean, we've got a bunch of games that we're playing we're playing couch co-op Spiritfarer right now. And that game's story is definitely more of a slow burn, it feels like.
Yeah, this one lets you know what's going on quick. Like, it's relatively short. We played it for, I don't know, probably 10, 12 hours total.
Yeah, sounds really fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was like a short TV series, and
I just clicked through to the store page, and it was like, you might like this because you like Night in the Woods and Castle Crashers.
Yep.
I'm sold.
Yeah. Night in the Woods meets Castle Crashers is actually a surprisingly good summary.
Like Castle Crashers is one of my favorite co-op games. So, sold.
Yep.
I have that on multiple platforms.
Yeah, it was one of those games that it totally slipped under my radar because I normally try to keep an eye out for interesting co-op games. Like, I hadn't even heard of this.
I had never heard of it until it showed up on the list. I thought it was going to be some kind of pen and paper game.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's super charming. It was super fun. It's got a couple of bugs and it's got a couple of things that are like, I probably would have done that a little differently, but
Sure, but
whatever. Yeah.
So it's isometric, right? Like you're brawling on like a 3/4 camera?
Kinda. Like, yes, technically. Like, it is isometric. It's isometric in the same way. I guess it's isometric in the same way that like Don't Starve is isometric.
Yeah.
It's like that. It has frankly great character animations. And also the sound design is great. Like if you have a button you can hold to, there's a button that'll make you roll, but if you hold it, you'll run. And whenever you're running, as either of the characters, you make like motorcycle noises or plane noises. Yeah, it's great. And it'll go for as long as you are running. There's a ton of little details that are just really thoughtful. Like you can like pedal really hard on your bike to get a boost of speed, but if you do it too often, you like cough because you're out of breath, and the little icon that pops up is an inhaler. But yeah, it's super charming. I highly recommend it. It was fun. It was relatively light, but it also had it was also told a pretty good story, or like a series of pretty good stories, actually.
Okay, what is Hypnospace Outlaw?
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I've been playing it, and I'm still not entirely sure I know the answer. It's basically a puzzle game set in 1999, but an alternate 1999 where there's like a sort of AOL/GeoCities thing that you connect to via headbands while you're sleeping. And
That doesn't sound very much like 1999.
Yeah, wait, what?
And you have
I mean, the headband is on point for 99, but
Yeah.
Sure.
And you have volunteered to be a moderator in this community, and so
in your sleep.
yeah, and so you're like going to basically like old like GeoCities type web pages, like looking for like illegal content or copyrighted content, or looking for cases of like user harassment and things like that. And like it's both nostalgic and weird. Like you go to pages that have like animated GIFs and music playing and stuff, just like, back in the olden days of the internet. But also apparently like there's this whole meta story of this being via these headbands, and like there's already some hints that there's something's going on with those, and there's some technical issues. I suspect that real world events are going to tie into this story eventually once I get further into it.
Are we
Is it by any
100%
chance set in
certain?
December?
It is. It's set shortly before January 1st, 2000. It actually starts in October, but time passes as the game goes. But yes.
That feels like it might be relevant.
It does. It really does.
So are we certain this isn't another Frog Fractions game?
I mean, it's been out for quite a while, and I haven't found any hint of it. Like, it's weird enough. Like, the weirdness is just front and center. Like, it's not hidden away behind it's just weird. But yeah, so far I've tracked down cases where people were using images of a copyrighted cartoon character and flagged those, and users are angry about that, and it started like this whole like factionalization and users rebelling because like you're taking away their cartoon characters, and like there's like I had to deal with a couple of users that turned out to like be high school students that were like harassing each other online, one of which has been very apologetic and the other less so, and just stuff like that. And it's actually like building into an ongoing story. Like the actions that I've taken early in the game have indirectly led to things later on. I don't know if there's like a branching storyline at all, or if it's just like this is how things go. But yeah, it's interesting and very strange. I've had it in my library for I don't know how long. I don't remember what I got it with, but I don't know. I felt like in the mood to try something new.
It sounds
gave it a try.
It sounds kind of Papers, Please-ish.
A little bit.
Like, is there like a game to actually trying to find the infringing materials?
It's very much having to follow clues and track people down. Like the earliest cases are a pretty simple case of just like searching for tags and like searching for instances of this cartoon character's name on pages and checking those out. But then you can also like dig in and look at this person says that they got this 3D render of this cartoon character from this person whose page is over here. So you can go look at their page and check it for stuff. But later ones, like I had to someone launched a virus that replaced people's homepages with inappropriate content. So I had to try and track down all the places where this content had been found or had shown up, and ultimately like managed to find a page where the person was keeping track of the people that he had done this to and like kind of making up stories about them. And I was able to use the information from those to find their pages and remove the content. But yeah, stuff like that. It's been much more a like puzzle / detective type game in that aspect. And also you get rewarded with currency as you're doing this, and you can use it to like buy like 8-bit music and stickers to put on your desktop and things like that if you want to.
The really important things.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting game. It's fairly cheap. Like I'm enjoying it.
How much have you put into the game at this point?
I'm in the middle of chapter 2. Basically, at the end of chapter 1, a thing happens that results in nearly every moderator losing their connection to the system for a couple of weeks. And so you come back in at the beginning of chapter 2, and things have kind of gone to hell in the meantime. And so I'm dealing with cleaning up some of that.
Is it I guess a time-eating game, or is it pretty quick to get into and get playing?
It's real quick, yeah. Like I've been playing for, I think I put 3 or 4 hours into it, and I've gotten that far. No, not even that much. 105 minutes playtime so far.
Okay.
It definitely seems like the puzzles in chapter 2, like it's going to take longer to figure out individual things. Like I've been given access to a neighborhood that was created by merging 5 other neighborhoods together, and the denizens of those neighborhoods are incredibly angry about it and have basically rebelled by creating a free space that's like set up in their own way with pages that link together to form a map, and you have to navigate through the map, and it's very like old school internet. These are weirdo fantasy and science fiction nerds who decided to make their own world.
A fan ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there web rings?
Oh, there are absolutely web rings.
Yes.
And you can make use of these to try and, if this person was involved in this particular sort of infringement, well, maybe going along these rings will lead you to other cases and stuff. And then there's also been the whole question of like, is this really, like, this thing is technically against the rules, but is it really worth flagging? And other cases of this definitely is worth flagging, but also when you flag a thing, the system puts the mark against the account of the person, like the image or whatever was connected to. So like in the cases of that virus that put inappropriate content on people's pages, well, each of them now has a ding against their account because they had that inappropriate content, even though the owners of the whole system know that that's what caused it. And they're trying to figure out a way to see if they can come up with some way to move the marks or whatever. Or like a girl reported harassment from those 2 teenagers that were harassing each other, and so I went and checked it out, and she had posted screenshots of it all, and so in the course of marking those, well, she got the marks against her account. So there's definitely meta stuff going on with all of that. Like, am I going to be a good tool of the company, or like do the users deserve a little more than the TOS would get them?
That is funny. Now this is reminding me of KeenSpot and web rings and my own GeoCities sites.
Oh yeah. Yep. Like that is exactly what this stuff feels like. If a page is loading slowly, you can make it load faster by wiggling your mouse back and forth really fast.
So this is actually slightly after my first interaction with the internet, because my first interaction with the internet was AOL, which I could only get to the walled garden that AOL provided for you. Mm-hmm. So I spent most of my time on the video games area, where it was mostly people talking about the various ways you could or could not find the Triforce and Ocarina of Time. Good times. And then I could get to the broader internet, and I could get to GameFaqs, and I would download and print out a GameFaqs so I could play with it next to my SNES.
Yep. I went and moved a bunch of stuff out of my mom's house not too long ago because she was moving. And among all the stuff that had been shoved back in the attic, I discovered a box full of nothing but old GameFaqs printouts.
Nice.
I bought one of those ginormous staplers that would like staple through 100 pages at a time just for GameFaqs.
Those were the days. I mean, GameFaqs is still my go-to for assistance with games because I can actually find it written out in text instead of having to sit through someone's awful 20-minute video.
I do still go to GameFaqs for old games. I find new games get generally less support there and or need it less.
That's, yeah.
In what sense do you say they need it less?
Can you tell me the order in which you're supposed to do things in the original Final Fantasy?
Oh, yeah, okay. So, like, yeah, that's the interesting, like, this is another interesting topic, is like, no, I could not possibly tell you the order, and nothing, like, things don't
and I can tell you that while playing
sense.
the game, it doesn't tell you either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't need GameFaqs for that because I had Nintendo Power.
Yeah, like, what I remember a lot of the, like, that I also feel like there was a lot of there was just more like secrets and nooks and crannies going on for you to have to discover.
There are still some games like that. Like the new God of War, for instance, has a lot of secrets in it.
Well, games have gotten better about giving you a visual language to identify where it's at.
Yeah, they tend to communicate that there's actually a thing you need to be looking for.
Well, like, okay, so in the original Zelda, literally you just had to go around trying to burn every bush.
Mm-hmm. And some of those bushes you didn't want to burn. The guy down underneath would be angry and make you pay him for burning down his front door.
Well, and then also there was the area where you had to go, I don't even remember, I think it was up, left, up, right.
Yeah, the Lost Woods.
Yeah, the Lost Woods. No clue what direction you were supposed to go.
Nope, you just had to guess, or like it wasn't in the game anywhere.
Yeah, the one where it was like you need to go up the mountain is just so that's
like Zelda didn't even have the Castlevania 2 excuse of bad translation.
Yeah,
it just wasn't there. Castlevania 2, at least the information was there. It was just translated so terribly that it was useless. Yeah, and mostly people won't put up with that these days.
Well, people won't spend the amount of time to write a heavily ASCII art filled out guide.
Yeah.
It's like 400 pages.
They were so beautiful. Like, I mean, my go-to for if I need information for Final Fantasy V is still a page on GameFaqs.
Yeah.
Like, I've got one of those facts bookmarked. That's where I go.
I do have the algorithm guide bookmarked because it's way more detailed than anyone ever needs for anything. But that's the level to which, if I don't already know it, that's what I'm looking for.
The algorithm guide?
Yes.
What game is this?
FF5.
Ah.
I know a lot of things about that game already, but that guide contains the things I don't know.
What is the algorithm guide?
Enemy AIs, and combat formulas, how damage formulas, things like that.
Got it. Yeah, I don't know those.
But yeah, Hypnospace Outlaw reminds me of, the days of, having my Thunderbolts fan page on GeoCities, being part of a web ring. Those were the days.
I think this is also a you topic, Thalen. Disco Elysium.
It is. This is the other really weird game that I've actually picked up relatively recently and decided to get around to playing, mostly to keep my mind off, the last week. And it is also incredibly weird and extremely compelling.
Yeah, but this is weird in different ways.
Oh, yes. It's kind of... So honestly, the game it reminds me of more than anything else is Planescape Torment. Because it is a game about wandering around, looking at the environment, finding things, and talking to people. And, using various different skills to glean information and question people and figure out what's going on. You are apparently a police officer, definitely an alcoholic, and an amnesiac. And one of the things that you're trying to do at the early part of the game is find out what's my name? Where do I live? What happened to my gun and my badge? I should have these things and I don't. Where are they? Because apparently just before the game starts, you basically just drank yourself into a stupor and have woken up with no memory. And you did this in a room in the hotel/cafeteria that you had been sent to on a murder investigation because somebody was hung from a tree in the backyard. And they're still hanging there. And it's been like 5 days. So that body's pretty ripe.
You're bad at your job.
Yes. Yes. I think I'm probably being about as good at the job as you can be as this character, and it's still a little iffy at times. So like this is set in a sort of, it's technically a science fiction setting, although I have not yet run into anything. I've not yet run into anything that's not that's beyond modern science. If anything, it's not caught up to our own science. Like music seems to be played on magnetic tape still, things like that. But you're in this city in a country. The city was the capital at one point. It seems like the city is basically run by the unions. The police. It seemed like the police. It's questionable whether the police have any actual real legitimate power at all. It kind of seems like they just kind of organize themselves so that there would be somebody trying to deal with things, and some people are cool with that, and some people just ignore them. And so this is the world that you're coming into with no real pre-existent knowledge of it, trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
I tell you, I tried to play this, but it was entirely too intense for me for the time at which I tried to play it. Because, when you get skill checks, it's not reading skill. It's a skill check against your limbic system.
Yeah. That's the other thing is, your mind is, talking to you the entire time about various things. And you have skills in,
there
one of the
supernatural elements to this game.
Yes. I think.
Sort of, maybe.
It seems like
Who knows?
Or it might just be you hallucinating. I don't know.
I think you're on an acid trip.
I met a guy who has an immense amount of net worth. He's incredibly rich. And he's so rich and his net worth is so much higher than mine that apparently that distorts the laws of physics. But my partner doesn't see anything weird. So I don't know. I talked to this guy and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing that happens. It's perfectly reasonable that you can't see my face because light isn't reflecting properly. Because my net worth is just the ratio between our net worths is just so immensely, off." And my partner's like, "I just see a guy. He's dressed nicely, but he's just a guy." But yeah, skills are things there's a skill in encyclopedia which allows your mind to throw up knowledge about things, which has been immensely helpful. I went with the thinker archetype that starts with that one, and it means that I will run into things and an encyclopedia check will get made, and my brain will remember that, oh yeah, this is a statue of this king from long ago who did these things, and the statue got blown up when later on, and has since been put back together as a sort of ironic postmodern statement, and the art community is divided on whether that's legit or not. And then I can have an opinion on that, and then it makes a check to see what my brain thinks about my opinion on that.
Or you can have a check.
That's the bit where you have no idea how true that is.
Yeah,
you can fail a check against your mouth.
Yes.
And
that check is real hard.
Yeah.
That's a real hard check.
Yeah, I looked in a mirror and apparently I'm making this this weird sort of sideways grin, the expression.
I can't get rid of it.
You can make a check to try and get rid of it. It's a difficult check. I failed it. This is a retriable check. You can there are white checks and there are red checks. Red checks can only be made once. White checks can be retried later on. They get unlocked through various methods, like either by putting another point into the appropriate skill or talking to an appropriate person or whatever. So theoretically, I could go back at a later point and try once again to get rid of the expression. But
yeah, so like, I thought this was going to be a humorous game, and it is.
I mean, it is,
but it was real dense. I'm like, yeah,
it's humorous, like watching Brazil.
Yes, exactly.
Like it's that kind of funny. Like I ran into this dude that's like a descendant of folks from an island to the south, and he has come up with this whole like this theory of his people's racial superiority, and I was given the option to accept his theory of racial superiority and internalize it. Which, like, probably if I did that, it would make it easier to deal with him. Like, one of the problems that you run into is trying to get past this guy, but I don't really want to, become a racist to get past this guy. I'd rather look for another solution. Because that's another thing is, like, in addition to these skills, which are, skills like there's a skill for, like, being able to do drugs well. There's a skill for logical thought. There's a skill that's it's like physical calculus. It's like being able to look at a crime scene and figure things out and stuff. And the way it talks, it makes it sound like having a lot of points in a skill can actually be a detriment in some cases. Like it would mean that you tend to fall back on that particular way of thought too easily. So I don't know.
Just overthink things.
Yeah, like having too many points in encyclopedia could mean that your brain is just throwing up all sorts of bullshit information and you can't figure out which of it is actually useful.
I mean,
but then also you have the opportunity to internalize thoughts. Like you can basically set thoughts up that you think about over a course of time, and they get internalized and they like affect how you interact with things. So I've got to get this corpse down out of this tree. And this corpse is really ripe. So I'm having trouble doing it because the first thing I need to do is I need to be able to get close to this thing without puking. I've tried twice now. I've failed both times, at which point my partner has, he's nicely explained to me. It's like, yeah, it's pretty rough. Like, I've seen, harder dudes than you have trouble with this sort of thing. Like, I'm okay because I basically don't have a sense of smell anymore for some reason. And he basically, like, nicely tells me to do that. I got to, like, get my shit together. At which point, I have the option to internalize getting my shit together. And so I've set this up to be internalized. And so I got to go do some other stuff for a little while that cooks. And then it will be internalized, and then possibly I can come back and we'll have some other option or a bonus to try and deal with this corpse. It's a really weird game. Like, very entertaining, very, very dense. Like, if you liked Planescape Torment and are cool with a Planescape Torment in a somewhat more real-world seeming setting with, as far as I can tell, no combat, this might be up your alley.
I feel this makes Planescape Torment look like a light trifle.
Yes.
Because like that's the thing that sold me on it was, it's a lot like Planescape Torment. I loved Planescape Torment. This has got a lot more options than Planescape Torment. Like, this has got systems upon systems upon systems.
You do have health. You have health and morale. So far, the things that I have taken health damage from have been turning on the lights and sitting in an uncomfortable chair. And the thing that I've taken morale damage from has been realizing that, holy shit, my gun is missing. And it's loaded. So.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, Brian, tell me about Mario Kart.
So I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart with my son Eli, and it's fun. He's like, we're able to put it on auto, and he heard his name, so here he is. But we got a chance to go play with some friends, and my friend is a much better player, and it's been a while since I've played Mario Kart with somebody who was going to beat me. And it really reminds me how good that game is when you are playing within a very narrow skill band where it's anyone's game. And one of the things that is great is it will make it very difficult to definitively say, I am the better player of this game, because there are so many things you can blame your performance on in that game. It's very hard to figure that out.
The game's really good about giving catch-up mechanics as well, which kind of dilutes progress.
So it's weird because the game does some catch-up mechanics, but it also... they are less effective at letting you get from 12, last to first anymore, but they do manage to, blue shells still are there to slow down the person in front. And, I actually think blue shells are a very weird mechanic. I wish they gave the person who got them something, but they are good for the game because they keep the front from being able to run away with things.
I also like the change in blue shells in the more recent games to be a big explosion.
Yes. It means that there's something that you have to be aware of. You can try and use them to hit the person directly behind you if you know where they are. But getting, this game is very, very fun when people are trading races back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love about Mario Kart, and I wish that more competitive multiplayer games were designed with this concept in mind. Mario Kart wants everybody playing to have a good time.
Yeah.
That is the goal. And it's not even pretending to be a finely tuned competitive game, really. And I think I like that. It means that you can play with your friends, no matter if your friends have played 10 minutes or 300 hours.
Okay, I will say there are skill gaps that are pretty insurmountable still in this game. The game has...
But the philosophy behind the game isn't different.
Okay.
It's designed, it's not necessarily that it succeeds, because I don't think it really does, because you're right, there's still big insurmountable skill gaps, but the idea is more that you should be able to do that.
Yeah. I feel like the game has, over time, made itself a more technical racer.
Yeah.
I strongly disagree with that assessment.
Interesting.
Depends on, I think it's oscillated back and forth.
I mean, I feel like the addition of stuff like coins makes it a more technical racer because you're...
You mean addition? You mean removal of?
Yeah.
And re-addition of?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because Mario Kart has gone through a lot of iterations, and early Mario Kart was a really technical game. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most difficult... It is a more difficult racing game than F-Zero, I think, on the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
That's probably true, yeah.
By a big
absolutely.
margin.
So I never played the Super Nintendo one. I played the the 64 one, and that's where I started.
Yeah, that was a big change for that game.
Okay.
And a lot of the ones in between, it's gone back and forth. There's the era of, what was it, playing Game Boy online?
The DS era.
The DS era.
Snaking ruled.
Yeah, where that's those are super technical racing games. So it's oscillated back and forth.
Well, and I think the Nintendo 64 era specifically was more accessible than a lot of them because a lot of things had changed at that point. It was a new controller. It was a new control scheme. It was 3D, actual 3D again. So, I think they made it less technical to ease people into it on the 64.
The 64 one is still my favorite Mario Kart in the series.
64 Battle Mode is my favorite Mario Kart.
I really like the 7 on 3DS. It was a nice change from how ridiculously technical the DS one was, but still kept enough to that I found it a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can
Like
see.
that was the one that introduced gliding.
I actually found all of the DS Mario Karts were too technical for me. What are we on now? 8?
Yep.
Now, isn't 8 just 7 but re-released for the Switch?
No.
No, okay.
8 came out on the 3DS. Oh,
Wii U.
no, 8 came out on the Wii U.
Yep.
I mostly like 8, but I think that some of its tracks, I think that a goodly number of its tracks are overwrought.
What do you mean by that?
There lots of twists, lots of sharp turns, lots of difficulty seeing where the next place you need to go is, sometimes iffy messaging.
I actually find that worse in the retro tracks than the new ones.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to think of, but when I think of, because again, my favorite is still the N64 one, and the N64 one had almost, with a couple of track exceptions, it had some really, really good, like, here's where you need to go. Hey, a turn is coming up.
There are only a few tracks that I think are really bad about that on 8. And all the ones I can think of at the moment are from older games. Like Neo Bowser City, while I like that track a lot, it's awful about letting you know where turns are.
Yeah.
And it's from the 3DS originally.
And there's a lot of ones where there's like multiple different paths, but I have no idea how to, I have no idea how to even select what route I should go on. But it seems like there's a right answer. I just can't figure it out by looking at it in the like quarter second I have to make a decision.
Yeah, that definitely feels like a harken back to you need to know the route.
Yeah, and I don't like that was one of the things that I thought was really that I really liked in the N64 ones was like there are shortcuts, but you know if you found a shortcut because you had to do something difficult to get to it, and you could see people achieving it or not.
I also feel like this is true of, like, this is, again, a thing that is more true of the older courses that they redid. Like, a lot, I don't think that's as true of the newer courses.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I haven't memorized courses in a long time, so I can't tell you which ones are new to a game versus old at this point.
Oh, it's all of the ones on the top row are all of the new courses, and all of the ones on the bottom row of Mario Kart 8 are the redone courses from old games. But I do agree, like, the best multiplayer experiences is when it feels not just close, but it feels like the winner can go back and forth and frequently does. Like when you've got, especially in Mario Kart, where you get to like do a race in like 3 to 4 minutes.
This is why I'm glad they switched Rainbow Road to one lap.
Yeah.
One lap is too short, but 3 laps was too long.
3 laps was too long. And the other Rainbow Roads are fine.
Mostly fine.
Rainbow Road has been a nightmare in a number of games.
Oh, I was talking about the ones in 8. There are 3 Rainbow Roads in 8.
Yeah, one is the original, which they widened the track of significantly.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I assume that they made that one easier because I feel like that
They
one
did.
is very
They
easy.
absolutely did.
it was so awful in the original.
And then there's a new one, which is good. And then there's the N64 one, which is also good now that it's not 3 laps.
Yep. I got hit by one of those chomps for the first time ever. It's not good. It just kills all forward progression. It doesn't actually blow you up or anything.
I kind of feel, though, that like there's no getting away from map knowledge being a major advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting tug of war, I think, between obviously you want to be better at a game if you know it better, but you can cross a threshold where now you are so good at the game that nobody wants to play because it's just not it stops being an interesting game. And it's really that's like a really hard thing to balance. And I feel like a lot of games just don't even bother to try, which is one of the reasons why I like Mario Kart. Because like it doesn't necessarily succeed all the time. It definitely tries, but it doesn't completely throw everything out the window the way Mario Party can. Because like I think it's a perfectly
simulator.
It's what?
Luck Simulator.
Yeah, like I think it's a perfectly cogent criticism of Mario Party that nothing you do matters, all of the points are made up. And like I think it's fine because that's the point of Mario Party, But there's a bunch of people I know who are like, I hate that game because I feel like nothing I do matters, even though the game pretends it matters. And I've seen other kart racers like Mario Kart that are less compelling because they do try to be more serious, and they do try to be more like, we are going to have a pure competitive and not have these catch-up mechanics like Mario Kart. We're not going to cheat you. And it's just, you just play Forza at that point.
I feel like I haven't played other than Mod Nation Racers, which was compelling for other reasons. I don't feel like I've played a bunch of kart games that try to discard all of that.
I remember Diddy Kong Racing took a lot of that out. Like a lot of the things, and Wipeout also took a lot of that out. And like, I realize that I'm probably making somebody mad by referring to Wipeout as a kart racer, but it's functional. But other than aesthetics, it's very, very similar.
I mean, F-Zero doesn't have any of that either, but I like both Wipeout and F-Zero.
Well, I mean, an F-Zero never had items or weapons or anything, whereas Wipeout does.
The Wipeout does. It's just they aren't as impactful as items are in Mario Kart.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a lot harder to use and very effective if you know how to use them, but they're so difficult to use that they're often not impactful. But as a result, it turns them into kind of a win more mechanic.
Trying to think of the ones in Fury, like mostly they don't help you if you're in first place, like at all, except for maybe the shield. And even then, only if your timing is good. So in that sense, there's kind of catch-up mechanics, but But you have things that are always good, like the rocket and the giant wave, which you're only likely to see if you're way behind.
Was it Sonic and All-Stars Racing that was also that like got rid of things like blue shells and item tweaks based on your position?
It definitely wasn't the definitely wasn't the first game, because each character had like a super item that you would only see if you weren't in first. I didn't play the second game very much. Most people say it was better, but I just never got a chance.
Well, is there anything else we want to talk about?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.